The man convicted of murdering California college student Kristin Smart is in the hospital after being attacked in prison. Paul Flores was taken to an outside hospital where he is now listed in serious condition. Last year, he was sentenced to 25 years to life for Kristin Smart's murder after a whirlwind trial in the most infamous unsolved murder on California's Central Coast. He is now awaiting the appeal of his murder conviction. Flores considered the last person to see Smart alive all the way back in 1996 when he was accused of killing her during an attempted rape in his dorm room at Cal Poly University. Smart's body has never been found, but now there are renewed efforts in hopes of someday locating her remains. Let's bring in now Misty Maris, legal analyst and trial attorney. Misty, I know you are very familiar with this case. Thank you for being with us. So we know Paul is in the hospital. Prison officials, though, are not confirming he was attacked. However, his lawyer is confirming it. Do we have any more details on what happened or what the motive may have been here?
Not at this time, but I will say in general, in prisons, there's a consensus that crimes against women and crimes against children are not looked at favorably by other prisoners. That's not to say what happened to him is right. There are protections in place in prisons. It's a human rights issue if somebody is attacked or harmed in those walls. And so certainly there should be an investigation triggered by the prison to find out what happened. But if I were to opine, oftentimes there could be some beef between prisoners, or it could relate to the nature of the crime he is convicted of.
All right, and Missy, maybe ironically, maybe not. He had just been transferred to this prison as of last week, but it sounds like that was more of a routine transfer.
Right, because now he's going to a more permanent place. He is awaiting his appeal, and during that time, he's not being released. And that's very common. When somebody is convicted of murder, they're not released during the pendency of the appeal. So he had been in a different facility. Now he's in a place where he will likely stay until that process is complete.
You know, and Missy, the fact that this happened, he's only been there for a week. Do you think he will have to be put into solitary for his own protection once he gets back?
That is a great question. And keep in mind, the prisons do have an obligation to protect those prisoners. So to the extent there is a known risk of harm to him by other prisoners, then absolutely the prison will have to explore some protections. And oftentimes that can be going into solitary confinement or being separated from the general population. So that's certainly something from a protective perspective that the prison will have to consider.
All right, and Missy, for people who aren't as familiar with this case, kind of get us up to speed. We know, as we said, Flores was convicted, but he does plan to appeal.
Absolutely. He plans to appeal. No surprise. We always see appeals come down the pike when somebody is convicted, especially of murder facing 25 to life. It's important to remember what constitutes a valid appeal. An appeal is generally based on the evidence that was admitted at trial. And here that's going to be a central issue. So what a convicted person says is that something should not have come into evidence or something should have come into evidence. Basically, the judge screwed up. Here, there is a very, very technical legal issue at play. During the trial, two women, Jane Does, testified that he raped them in 2008 and 2011. His attorneys are going to argue that this was overly prejudicial to let that into the courtroom, that the jury never should have heard about that. It came in under a law that's called modus operandi. It's an evidentiary rule where the prosecution argues the jury should hear about this because it speaks to the way that this crime was committed. And the theory of the case for prosecutors in this case, that it was a rape gone wrong, a rape that became a murder. So this is going to be the central issue, whether or not there should have been testimony by these two victims subsequent to this 1996 case. So it's a really novel legal issue, and it's something that could potentially put this for a reversal. It really is, depending on how that evidence plays out in the appellate process.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of disappointed people if that were to be the case, because so much interest, so much renewed interest in a case that's still more than 30 years old, but so many people paying attention to this one. All right, Misty, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.